So if I have additional servers, additional computer machines, clients, they will be able to connect to my network, and they will be able to receive an IP address from my server, and that way I'll be able to control all of the network devices within my network. So I'm going to log into my server. Instead of using NLB Lab Administrator, which is the account that we first had when we promoted our server to domain controller, I went ahead and I've created another account, which is again a domain administrator account. It's called NLB admin. I'm going to log in with NLB admin now. This is the first time that this account is logged on to my domain controller, so it could take some time. And actually it happened really fast. So in order for me to proceed with configuring my DHCP so it can give automatic assigned addresses to my clients, I will need to add the row from the top right corner where you can see the manage option, and right below you can click on add rows and features. Of course you can do this from PowerShell as well, but I'm going to simplify things using the GUI. I'm too lazy to use PowerShell right now, so yes. And here you will see the DHCP row that we can select with a tick box. It will ask us to add additional features that are required by the DHCP to work normally, so I'm going to add the features as well. On the right side here you can see a brief description of the dynamic host configuration protocol, or DHCP, so you can check that. I'm going to click next once again. Here is some additional information for the DHCP and things that you need to note. You can check them as well. So I'm going to click install, and while this is installing, I'm going to quickly switch to my virtual machine that I'm going to use to receive an IP address on. And this is, as you remember, my Windows 10 machine that I've upgraded from Windows 7. If you want, I will make a click link so you can check it. So I'm going to check the network settings on the machine. You can do this by CMD. I'm going to run as administrator. Yes. Let me make that bigger. Okay. So if I will use the command ipconfig with the switch all to display all of the network configurations on this machine. So now, as you can see, I have an automatically assigned IP address. It is called a PIPA address, and this address it's automatically assigned to every single machine when there is no DHCP in the network to provide addresses, or if you don't have any static IP assigned to that machine. So let me show you. If you go to the local area connection and then properties, and then Internet Protocol version 4 properties, you can see that here we have obtain an IP address automatically and DNS server address automatically. If you want, you can switch to use the following IP address. You can manually input the information, but in this case, as I'm installing DHCP server, I want to test the functionality of that DHCP server, so I'm going to leave the settings like that for now. So let's switch to my DC. Okay, the installation is done, so I'm going to click close. And again, on the top side, on the notification area, you will see that we have a notification that we need to complete the DHCP configuration. So I'm going to click that, and we're going to proceed with the additional configurations for the DHCP. every single DHCP server, when you install that, it needs to be authorized. So it will ask us what are the credentials that has the needed rights to authorize this DHCP server. In this case, it selected my login credentials, which are a domain administrator. So this will make sure that the DHCP is authorized. So I'm going to commit the changes. Okay, it's done creating the security groups and authorizing the DHCP server, so I'm going to click close to that window. Now after everything is done, we can go to Tools once again and open the DHCP console. I'm going to expand that. And on the left side you can see a small arrow. If you click on that, you will see that you have two options that you can configure on your DHCP. One is the IPv4 and the other is the IPv6. As still up to date, IPv6 is not that widely used. I'm going to configure the IPv4 option. So if you right click on that, you have the option to create a new scope. If you haven't authorized your server, you can do this from here. Here it's saying now that it's already authorized and I can unauthorize it, but if you didn't do this, you need to first authorize this server and then proceed with creating the new scope. So I'm going to proceed with that. It will launch the new scope wizard. I'll click next. The first window will ask me to specify the name of my scope, so I'm going to specify NLB scope. And as description, you can always specify here if you have a specific, if you have multiple scopes, for example, you can name them within a specific way so that it can help you. For example, one scope could be for the personnel, other scope could be for the marketing department. So that's why you have the description here. I'm going to click next. And now it's going to ask me what is the range of IP addresses that I want to give with my DHCP server. So let me show you. Currently my domain controller is in the 10.0.0.0 network, which is a class C network. You can see the subnet mask right here. So I'm going to use that network segment to add to my DHCP, but instead of adding the full segment, all the IP addresses within the class C, I'm going to add only half of them. So I'm going to specify 10.0.0.2128, for example, to up to 10.0.0.254, and it is currently detected as a class A network, which is 8 bits in length, but I'm going to change that from here so I can make it a class C. Okay, it automatically created the length, so I'm going to click next. In this window, you will see the add exclusion and delay. So, for example, if you have the full range of IP addresses if you here previously set the full range of IP addresses from 1 to 254, in this window you will be able to exclude the IP addresses of your, for example, servers. Or devices that you want, or devices that have static IP address on your network. And what I usually do is I tend to create the DHCP scope to give addresses outside of my server range. So for example, if I use the range from 1 to 20 for my servers and devices, I give the DHCP range from 21 up to 254, for example. So in this case, if I try to add an IP address or IP range that is not included in here, I will receive an error. I will show that to you. So 10.0.0.1, for example, to up to 10.0.0.20. if I try to add that, it will say that the IP address range is not a subset of the overall range. So if you want to add exclusion here, it must be, for example, 230, from 230 to 232, for example. So yep, and it will exclude the IP address 130, 131 and 132 from giving that to your client. So I'm going to remove those. Let me leave that blank. So let's click next. The next window will be the lease duration. In here it's basically saying how long we'll give the IP address to be in use by the client machine. So if you connect a laptop, for example, within your network, your DHCP server will give that laptop an IP address, and that IP address will be valid for 8 days. For example, if you have a network that you have a lot of devices, a lot of mobile phones that are connecting to, you can consider lowering that to a smaller amount, for example a day or maybe hours, because at the end of the 8 days you can be left with no available IPs for giving, and some of your colleagues can go to you and say, well, I cannot connect to the internet today, so what is going on? So consider that. Going to click next. The next option is configure DHCP options. These are options like the default gateway, the DNS server, Win servers, and I want to show you how this is done. So the first option is the default gateway or the router that you are using. So in this case I'm going to specify the address 10.0.0.1 and add that, and this is going to be added as a default gateway when every computer in my network is assigned with a DHCP address. I'm going to click next. Okay, you can specify the parent domain if you want the client computers on your network to use DNS name resolution. So here you can specify which server in your domain, for example, or which is the DNS server in your network. Here we already have our domain controller, which is 10.0.0.21. This is automatically added. I don't have any other DNS server, so I'm going to leave that for now and click next. Okay, this is the wins section. If you have any legacy applications or applications that require wins, it's needed to specify the wins server here. I don't have one, so I'm going to leave that blank and click next. And it will ask me if I want to activate the scope now. So for example, if you want this scope to be activated or to be available on a future time, you can click no, I will activate the scope later. You can do this later, but in my case I can select to do it right now and finish. So there it is. I can see my scope now, the NLB scope. Here I can see the address pool and the address ranges that I have for distribution. From here you can refresh only, but if you click here you can set new exclusion ranges, so you can add additional ranges here that you can exclude from this one. So if you have, for example, a new printer, and if you want to exclude that printer, you can do it by reservation here with the MAC address, or do it from here by excluding the IP address, for example, if you have a static IP address on that printer. And here I can see that my PC already picked up an address, which is really nice. I didn't do actually anything. I wanted to show you how we can force that PC to receive an address, but I can see that I've already received as soon as I activated the scope here. The scope options are, if you remember, we configured the default gateway, the router, the DNS server, and the DNS domain name. And there are few policies here that you can configure for your DHCP server. You can be quite granular here, what and when to be assigned and where. Of course, you have filters, and in there you can allow computers to connect and receive a DHCP address, and you can allow this by specifying the MAC address, or of course you can deny. If you have a computer that you don't want to be connected, you can add a filter with that computer MAC address, and that won't receive a DHCP address. So let's switch over to the Windows 10 machine. If I use the command ipconfig once again, I can see that it automatically picked up an address without me doing anything. Actually, I wanted to show you there is a good way for you to renew the IP address. For example, if you have an automatically assigned IP address, and if you want to try to refresh that, you can try with the command ipconfig/renew, and it will try to connect to the DHCP server and will ask for a new IP address. So yeah, it's already did that, and it's already took the IP address that I have configured in my address lists here. For the last part of my video, I'm going to go ahead and join my Windows 10 computer to my NLB Lab domain. You can do this by right-clicking on the Windows icon on the bottom left side, the Start menu, and then click on System. Of course, you can do this by going to File Explorer, this PC, then Computer, and then System Properties. It will open the same window, and right here you will see that currently the computer is into a work group, so I'm going to change the settings. Click Change. From here you can rename the PC. I've already did that, and I just want to add it to the domain, so my domain is nlblab.com. It will ask me for the domain administrator credentials, or credentials of the person that has the permission to join the computer to the domain, so I'm going to specify nlbadmin. Press enter. Okay, welcome to the nlblab.com domain. You have to restart the PC after you join it to your domain, so I'm going to click close and restart now. In the meantime, I'm going to hop over to my domain controller, to my server manager, and tools, and users and computers. If you expand that and expand my domain, I will see a container named computers, and in this container I have the nlb-pc-02. As I already created an organizational unit within my Active Directory users and computers, I want to move that object in the computers organizational unit under that, so let's make that. I want everything to be clean and tidy, so yep, this computer is already here. Let me hop over to my virtual machine, the Windows 10 virtual machine. So it's going to load all the settings for my desktop, and now we can proceed with logging in. But this time, instead of using the NLB NIC, which is a local account, I'm going to choose another user, and I can sign in to NLB Lab. So I'm going to choose nlb.admin and log in with my domain administrator on my computer. Okay, and after the greetings and all the information that Windows has to show me, I will be able to work with my computer in the domain. After the intro is done, I can go ahead and check to see if indeed my computer is on the domain, which it is. So now we can use all the resources within the nlblab.com domain. for example, shared printers, shared folders and files. We can use all the restrictions from our Active Directory to restrict the computers or to allow them specific options and specific functions. And this is pretty much the end of my quick overview of how you can install DHCP and use it to connect devices within your network, and after that add them to your domain and provide them the right to use your domain resources. So thank you very much for viewing and see you soon.